So here we are with four coats of satin polyurethane on this thing. And I just applied the fourth coat, so it's still kind of glossy, but nice even finish. It'll flatten out quite a bit once it dries. So the guitars had 2 days to dry, and see if I can make it so you can see it here. As you can see, since I didn't put a sanding sealer on here because it's more expensive than just buying an entire can of polyurethane, you can see where the polyurethane's kind of followed the grain there. And so what I've done is I've taken my palm sander with 600 grit on it and sanded the back. And as you can see, the back has blocked out completely flat. I'm afraid to go any further because I want to sand it completely off, but you can see here there's no texture to it anymore. It's completely flat. So my intent now is to sand the front as flat as the back, and then put a couple coats of the wipe-on polyurethane at my buddy Dave's recommendation, and see what she ends up looking like. My goal is to have it really glossy, so we'll see if we can make that happen. Now, normally most of the time you would sand this wet. However, I don't want to sand it wet because I've got all these pockets here that are, for the most part unsealed wood, as well as all these holes, and I didn't want it to absorb water and then create problems for me later. So I'm just going to go through more sandpaper that way. So again, this is 600 on a palm sander. My old one died midway through sanding. It lived a long 9-year life, so it's a brand new one. Anyway, here we go. So one of the things you saw me do was keep moving around. So I don't want to put too much heat in this polyurethane right now, but you can see how it's just starting to flat off all the texture, which is just what we want. Like on this side, you can see that it's essentially completely flat. I don't have to get it completely flat because you won't notice if there's just a couple little deals, but I'll have to scuff that before I put the next polyurethane on. But I want to get this more like that, but if you put too much heat in it, you can actually start to peel the polyurethane, and I don't want to do that. So, got to keep it moving. Now, so down here we're getting almost completely through. We're getting good cut of the texture. I think I'm going to put a new piece of sandpaper on and give it just a little bit more. One of the things I don't want to do is I don't want to burn through to the stain and start taking the actual stain color off. I just want to flat off the polyurethane so it's a good base for a nice finish with the with a wipe-on poly. So I'm going to change my sandpaper. As you can see, it's kind of gummed up. Go again. All right, so here we are with coat of wipe-on polyurethane on it. You can see it's actually got a pretty decent shine to it. It's very, very simple to apply. I'll do a video of it soon, but you'll see how we still have just a little bit of texture in here. So you're supposed to sand between coats, so I'm going to block it with some 600 and then wipe another coat on. Alright, one of the things you'll find out when you use this wipe-on polyurethane is you can get some like white marks in it from your actual rag. So I just like to block those out a little bit, because otherwise you'll keep building almost like a run. You'll build like a white mark on top of a white mark. You really just want it to be nice and flat. It also gets any dust or crud out of here. A small white mark there. Alright, after you've got all the white marks off, what I found has been easiest, since the can says to sand it with 220, but I think that's a little nuts. I've just been using Scotch-Brite paper. And the gray Scotch-Brite isn't the most abrasive, it's like a 400 or so. So I'm just going to use that and scuff the rest of the surface with it. Give it a quick scuff. I'd be worried about using 220, about it being so coarse that you actually create sanding scratches in it. Just give her a good scuff with a gray Scotch-Brite. And then we're going to blow it off. Okay, now to do the wipe on poly, I like to put on gloves because poly is kind of sticky. And this is literally like the fastest top coat ever. Says you can do it every 2 to 3 hours. That's obviously depending on how thick it is. Give her a shake. Open it up with a screwdriver. And then liberally apply it to a cloth. By liberally, I mean liberally. Okay, probably enough. So the rest of it put it on here. And then you gotta move fast. This stuff dries so quick. Don't worry, the little bubbles and lines will melt in. For the most part, it flows pretty well. You kind of want to stay, I like to stay in like the direction, in the same direction over the whole piece. That way it makes it easier to buff and sand later. Alright, it's literally that fast. But now you need to make sure to throw this rag away or put it in a metal container. I've been throwing them outside in a bucket that is far away from anything flammable. And then in 2 hours, do it again. So after about 10 coats of polyurethane on the top, I flipped it over and put the first coat of rub-on on the back. My impression of wipe-on polyurethane is that, you know, it goes on thin, goes on real easy, but it, you know, it's a long process. It doesn't go on real thick. So what I did is, the top side's kind of tacky, so I just cut a couple of dowels and used some sticky tape and stuck them into the pockets, so that I could keep that head, you know, front surface off the table while working on the back. So yeah, a couple more coats, and then I'm gonna let it sit for a couple days, and then time to buff it. All right, so it's been a couple of days, and I wanted to start on the back because obviously it's the least conspicuous area. So what I did is I wet sanded the whole back with 1200 and had a towel so it didn't get too wet or have the wood or the, you know, the water soak into anything. And then, you know, usually in the wood industry they have a big, you know, buffing wheel on a motor, but I'm more car related, so I already had a Griot's Garage, you know, 3-inch orbital buffer and some Jay Leno's Garage compound and polish. And so I wanted to see like if I could get it done with just 1200, and so I blocked the whole thing off flat with 1200 and then came at it with a buffer. And I've got, this is just with compound, got some sanding scratches left where I haven't hit it real hard, but I think she's going to look really good. So I'm just going to do the whole back buffed and see where I'm at. Okay, so this is the process I worked out. Just kind of show everybody, do a quick video of it. So this little buffer's kind of loud, so I'm putting on some ear plugs, and I'll also mute the volume a little bit, but you can see I've hit it real quick and it's definitely coming out nice. So we'll start on this end. Basically, you gotta have a squirt bottle full of water, mist the surface a little bit. This is a compound pad for this little Griot's Random Orbit buffer that I use on my cars. And then, just step one, compound, pretty simple really. And so you go from put a decent amount of compound on there, and then put our ear protection on, and we'll smear it around a little bit to try to mitigate it flying everywhere. Turn on the buffer. Okay, so now we'll take our microfiber towel here, wipe the surface away, have to do that a couple more times, but as you can see we're already getting a nice shine, and I haven't even hit it with polish yet, so keep at it. Alright, so we got the top buffed here, and she is shiny, so that's cool. The sides I think I'm just going to leave because they came out really well just as they were. But yeah, so next step is to start assembling her.